Hey everybody, this is Repearon, and today we are finally getting around to the Killing Floor 2 Survivalist Weapon Tier List. This is going to be a big list because, as you can see, we have a ton of weapons to go through. So I'm going to be going through them fairly quickly, and I'm not going to be going through them in any specific order. I'll be giving my opinion on what I think are the best survivalist weapons, and we're just going to start right now, starting off with the C4. Now, C4 is a pretty good off-perk weapon. It does a lot of damage. It's pretty cheap. It doesn't weigh very much. You can kill flesh pounds incredibly easily with it. You can kill the Patriarch pretty well with it too. The biggest bonus you get using a survivalist with this is the increased explosion radius, which is okay. It's not really necessary. You can blow yourself up pretty easy with C4. C4 isn't a weapon I pick a whole lot on survivalist, but it's an okay option, so it's going to go into B tier. It's always an okay option on pretty much every class, with the exception of maybe demo, where it's a pretty good option. Alright, up next, grenade pistol. Grenade pistol is one of the best starting weapons to get with survivalist because both your level 5 perks go for it, since it counts as both a gunslinger weapon and a demo weapon, so it doesn't matter which level 5 you picked, you will have rapid reload. It can get the bonus explosion radius. The grenade pistol scales incredibly well. Overall, it's a pretty good weapon. It's a pretty good option. Does get a little bit heavy. Goes up to 8 at max. That being said, survivalists can carry up to 20 weight if they're running the weapon harness. Grenade pistol is definitely a good one to get early on, and it sells for bonus cash, so A tier. It's still pretty good on survivalist. Better on demo, but pretty good on survivalist. Alright, a single 1858. This is another one that falls into both categories of whichever level 5 you picked. It does decent damage, it has a pretty good rate of fire, it's pretty accurate, manageable recoil, sights aren't the best. If you have one of these, if you just pick it up off the ground, it's not bad. It's not a great weapon though, I wouldn't recommend going for it. It scales pretty decently though. I'm going to put one 1858 in probably C tier. It's okay, like if you pick it up or if you want to toss one down if you spawned with them. Not a bad starting weapon. Alright, a single 500. Now, single 500 also goes for both perks, so it allows you a lot more flexibility. The single 500 does a ton of damage. It only weighs 3. With one upgrade, it goes up to 4. That is very manageable. It makes an extremely good sidearm. It's very, very strong. And, yeah, just overall, a really great weapon for survivalist. It is a little bit pricey, but not too bad at $750. It's something you can get early on too. I'm actually going to put one 500 in S tier. It's pretty good for survivalists to just grab one of these. It allows you to use a lot of different options with it, and it's pretty powerful. Alright, a single Desert Eagle. A single Desert Eagle is also a really good weapon. High damage, high accuracy, decent reload speed, decent clip size, I guess. Pretty good penetrative power. It's all around a pretty strong weapon and makes for a good sidearm. It also scales well, so A tier. Alright, the 9mm. The 9mm is just an okay weapon on survivalist. You'll use it if you need to, but otherwise you won't, so C tier. The AA-12. Now, the AA-12 is a pretty heavy-hitting weapon, and it's one weapon that I really enjoy taking with survivalist. You don't need tight choke with the AA-12 like you do with other shotguns to make them feel more consistent at longer ranges. The AA-12 works just fine. With the weapon harness, it allows you to even upgrade it, so you can have 11 and then another 9-weight weapon, or 2 weapons that you can fit into 9-weight. It's really good on survivalist. It allows you to take some other big guns, and the AA-12 is going to go to S tier for me. It's great at clearing trash, and it's pretty decent at killing big things. It's not as consistent at killing big things on survivalist, but for clearing trash and clearing medium Zeds, it works just fine, as well as holding objectives it works really well at too. Alright, Battle Axe up next. Battle Axe is a really heavy weapon, which can be a good thing for survivalist, because it does allow you more options. It hits like a truck. You can block with it. Blocking is always great. It does a devastating amount of damage, and it works really well with your level 10 perk of being able to move faster and deal more damage with melee weapons. So it is very strong. It's not a weapon I take very often on Survivalist, but it is very strong. It's going to go right into A tier. Very good weapon. Alright, the AR-15. Well, the AR-15 is kind of disappointing. I'm never really happy to see this when I start out. It's an okay weapon. It'll get you through some rounds, but there's no point in keeping it or upgrading it at all. You have way better options, especially as Survivalist, because you have good tier 2 options that you could just buy right into. Or you could just buy into something like a Desert Eagle or a 500 right away. Just skip tier 2 altogether. So yeah, AR-15, D tier. It's not worth upgrading. Just not a great gun on Survivalist. Alright, Blunderbuss is up next. Now, the Blunderbuss is a super fun weapon, and honestly, I haven't used it that much on Survivalist. I think I've used it maybe once. It seems like a pretty fine weapon overall. It has high damage, it has good utility with having the shotgun mode and the grenade launcher. Both those are great. It fits into a reasonable amount of weight, so I think I'm going to put the Blunderbuss somewhere towards the bottom of A tier. Pretty good weapon. But honestly, I haven't used it that much, so I can't say much more about it. Alright, Cock and Burn. Now, the Cock and Burn is pretty good on Firebug, and it is absolutely awful on Survivalist. This is the worst weapon to get at the start, because you have no perks that increase its damage, increase its reload. You get limited ammo with it. Its scaling is just kind of okay. It's just kind of okay when you're on Firebug. It's absolutely terrible on Survivalist. Don't take this weapon on Survivalist and upgrade it. Unless you're playing on lower levels or you're just memeing around or something. Doesn't do a good amount of weight. I can't wait to get rid of this thing after round 1 if I end up spawning with it. And it's just okay at round 1. Alright, Crossbow. Crossbow's a pretty good weapon. Has really high damage, long range, pierces through things. You can go pick up your bolts. It's all around a pretty decent weapon, and sitting at a decent weight, it also scales really well. So it does work well for taking down big Zeds or firing down lanes. It's quite good at that. It is very situational, though. On certain maps, Crossbow is not going to help you out at all. And you could argue that there's better tier 2 options for you especially. So Crossbow is going to go into B tier. Decent option. Maybe exceptional on certain maps. Not on all maps, though. Alright, the Crovel. Now, Crovel's pretty good to start out with. It doesn't take any ammo, it hits reasonably hard, you can swing fast with it if you're running the melee specialist. It's not a bad option to get right away, and you won't worry about running out of ammo, plus you can block with it. So probably towards the high end of C tier, because you're not going to keep it, you're going to sell it away to get a better melee weapon. It isn't bad though if you can pick it up off the ground on a later round, because it's always an option to block and it's better than your knife. So you can always block flesh pounds or scrakes with it, get somewhere that you need to. So it's pretty decent for that job, but there is better melee weapons if you want to go for a dedicated melee build or a supportive melee build. Alright, I think this is the double barrel, the boomstick that support has, and the boomstick is really strong. It's a very good weapon. It's probably one of the strongest tier 2 weapons in the game. Has exceptionally high damage, gives you increased mobility. It does have more spread though. It does have quite a bit of spread. Tight choke really helps with this, and Survivalist doesn't get access to that. But it's not really a bad option. It's a pretty good tier 2 option if you need something that's cheap and powerful. So I'm going to put this probably in high A tier. It's a pretty good weapon. Alright, now dual 1858s. Now you start out with these, they are also kind of okay. They do okay damage, they scale well. They aren't as versatile because you have to take the gunslinger faster reload if you want faster reloads with these, as opposed to if you just had one where it counts as both a gunslinger and a sharpshooter weapon. These are fine overall, but I never really keep them with guns, or I never really keep them with a Survivalist. I usually sell them away. So I'm going to put these probably in C tier, about at the same rank as a single one. A single one's better to pick up later on and use it as a backup weapon. Dual weigh a little bit more, but you're not really sad to see them when you start out, so they're fine. Dual 500s. Dual 500s are really powerful. They do a lot of damage. You can do a pretty high amount of damage per second with them. They do weigh a decent amount though, so it does somewhat limit you. But overall, they're very strong, and we've talked about them with the single one. I think I'm also going to put this in S tier, but I'm going to put it below a single one because a single one is arguably a better backup since it has a lot more flexibility with Survivalist. Dual are not a bad option though either because high damage. And it's also easy to build into them since you only need to pay $750 for the first one and $750 for the second one. So you can use a single one much earlier on and then switch it up to dual ones. A similar thought comes to mind when I'm talking about the Desert Eagles. They are very good. They have a higher rate of fire than like the 500s. They do good damage. They scale well. They work as an okay backup, but I think I would take a single Desert Eagle more often over dual Desert Eagles for Survivalist. That being said, they're not a bad option, and they're going right into the middle of A tier. Still very strong. I believe that these are the 1911s, but I could be wrong. These might be the 2011s. Not entirely sure about that. I'm going to treat them like they're the 1911s, and if I get that wrong, I apologize. But the 1911s are okay. They're an all-around just okay tier 2 weapon. They have a high rate of fire. They have low recoil. They hold a decent amount of shots. They're fairly accurate. They scale decently well. Overall, they're not bad options, but I rarely take them because you do have some better tier 2 options to take with Survivalists. So I'm going to put these probably somewhere around C tier. They're fine overall. All right, I believe these are the Winter Bites. And the Winter Bites are interesting because they do allow you to freeze things, and Survivalists, some of their signature weapons actually freeze things. So they're not bad for that. They don't make a bad utility option, especially if you spawn into a game midway through, as people have brought up in the comments, which is true. They do allow you to support the team. That being said, you have a lot of support options with Survivalist, and I usually wouldn't go for these ones first. I think they're better if you spawn into a game midway with like Gunslinger. Then they seem pretty good, but if you spawn midway into a game with Survivalist, you have more options than dual Winter Bites. So I'm going to put these in C tier as well. Maybe towards the bottom of C tier. Alright, Eviscerator. High damage, long range. You can get your ammo back with them. They can pierce through multiple enemies. You can block with it, and you can chainsaw things. That being said, it feels way more clunky on Survivalist than it does on Berserker. Not usually a weapon I go for with Survivalist because you, once again, have better options for high damage things. It's not a terrible option, but it does take up a good amount of weight. Chainsaw's kind of nice for taking care of small things, but I think I'm going to put the Eviscerator in high B tier for Survivalist. Again, not a bad option, but I feel like you have some better options, where in this case, I think the Battle Axe actually outshines it because of the weight you can carry and how the attack speed is different, where you don't get any increased in the range damage, I believe, with the Eviscerator. I think it's only the melee damage, so the saw part, which isn't as strong. Alright, Fire Axe is up next. Fire Axe hits really hard. It's a pretty decent tier 2 weapon. You can block with it. You can take out big Zeds pretty easily with it, and it scales decently well. But it doesn't scale as well as some melee weapons, so I'm probably going to put this in B tier. It's not going to be as good as like the Battle Axe for you. Alright, up next, the Flamethrower. And Survivalist doesn't do well with Firebug weapons. The Flamethrower is one of the better options, though, because it's pretty decent at killing trash. That being said, you do have a lot of options to kill trash with Survivalist because you have such a wide array of weapons. So it's decent, but not anything spectacular. It's going into C tier for them, somewhere in the middle. Alright, up next is the Frostfang. And the Frostfang is actually really good on Survivalist because it counts as a melee weapon, so you can get increased mobility while being able to shoot stuff. And that is really good. As well as you do get quite a bit more damage with this thing on its melee hits, and freezing stuff is nice. This is actually a really, really strong weapon with Survivalist. Very good support weapon, good for keeping ammo, good for dealing with pretty much anything. It's very strong. I'm going to put this at the top of S tier for right now. It's a pretty powerful weapon. Alright, now the Glock 18s with a shield, or the Glock 18 with a shield. This is a SWAT weapon, and you can block with it. It does weigh, I believe, 9, and you can go up to 10. That's not that great. You have nothing to... you already have tons of better options to block with. Melee weapons are going to block much better than this. You have to be looking down sights when using the block feature, and that's not that great. It's just not a good option for Survivalist, and it costs a lot. I mean, it's kind of a cool weapon, but yeah, This one's going... Honestly, I think this one's probably going into D tier for him. It's not as bad as those two, but it's not a good weapon to pick with them. It feels very clunky. I mean, SWAT can make some use of it, but Survivalist, for $1,500, you have much better options than the Glock and the shield. For $1,500, you could get even the Kroval to block with, and then like the double barrel, and you'd have a much better loadout there. If you wanted something like blocking and close range. So, all right, now the single Glock 18. Single Glock 18 is pretty good. You can spray it pretty quickly. It's reasonably accurate. It has a big magazine. It's good for killing stuff. You don't get the insane amount of damage that you do with Gunslinger, but it's not bad. Probably somewhere in B tier. It works just fine. Dual Glocks, I'm going to say they're about the same as the single one for Survivalist. Higher rate of fire, but still not that accurate, and no real bonus in damage like the Rack 'em Up scale gives. So they're decent, but that's about it. All right, Medic Pistol. Medic Pistol is going to go into S tier, just like it always does. It's never a bad option for you to take. 1 weight for the ability to heal is amazing, and it scales well for a backup weapon. I mean, up to 4 weight isn't bad. You can, headshot all the small Zeds. Not an issue. All right, Medic SMG. Medic SMG is okay. It's pretty good at clearing trash. It doesn't weigh very much, so you can fit it into a lot of loadouts. It is a SWAT weapon, which if you want all your perks, or if you want all your weapons to be one of the 3 perks, that means you're going to go with SWAT weapons, gunslinger weapons, and commando weapons. That's not too bad because gunslinger weapons do make up for in just high amounts of damage, so you can go that, and it has the ability to heal, just like all the medic weapons. So Medic SMG is probably going to the low end of A tier. It's not a bad option. It's okay with most loadouts. All right, Medic Shotgun. Medic Shotgun is pretty good. Medic Shotgun, you can reload fast, you can shoot fast. It does low damage for a shotgun, but it still does shotgun damage, so that's still quite a bit of damage. And the ability to heal is nice. It also, I believe, only weighs 6, so you can fit it into quite a few loadouts there. This is going to go towards the high end of A tier. Pretty good gun. Just overall really good. All right, now the Medic AR. The Medic AR is really good too. It has really high damage. Well, it has good damage for an assault rifle. You can heal with it. I think it weighs 7, so you still got plenty of options there. This one's really good. I enjoy taking it quite a bit with Survivalist, and I think I'm going to move this one into S tier. Low S tier, it's pretty good. I could see somebody putting the Medic Shotgun in low S tier too. It's quite good there as well. It just depends on what your loadout is and what kind of perks you're going to be running. All right, now we've got, I believe this is the HRG arc generator. So the lightning ball thrower or zapper thing. And this thing weighs a lot. It weighs 9. It costs a good amount. It does upgrade once. And the lightning damage actually does a ton of damage on most enemies. The electric balls, for anybody that doesn't know, actually do double damage towards all bosses. So it's very good for boss wave, and it's quite strong against most large Zeds because it can also apply the EMP effect, which can cause like Scrakes and Flesh Pounds to not rage, Husks to not blow up, Sirens to not scream. It's just an all-around really good weapon, and it's probably one of my favorites to take. I'm going to put this also into low S tier. It's quite good. Alright, now this is the heal thrower, I believe. I think it's the heal thrower. The heal thrower is okay. It's pretty good at killing small things. It's decent as a support weapon, but you don't get any bonus reload speed. I think it's probably the weakest of the healing options that Survivalist has. It's not a bad option on Medic, but not a great option on Survivalist, so it's probably going to go somewhere into the middle of C tier. I don't really take it that often, but you can heal with it, so it's not going to be into D tier. This is the Medic Railgun, the Insurgent, I believe. This is also good. You can heal with it. It does pretty high damage. It does damage over time, and it does an EMP effect. It does weigh a decent amount, and you don't get any reload perks with it, which isn't the best, but still being able to heal, and you can use its healing darts to kill things. So you essentially have infinite ammo with it, and For high damage, infinite ammo, the ability to support, I'm going to put this into somewhere in the middle of B tier. Alright, up next we got the Kaboom Stick, and the Kaboom Stick is great, and it's going to go right into S tier, somewhere either at the top or near the top. Kaboom Stick gives you tons of damage at close range with the ability to have a little bit more mobility when jumping back. You can go with the larger explosion radius with it, that helps out too. You don't need that though. All around a very strong weapon, and fits into a lot of loadouts. It's one of my favorite weapons in the game, and it is an incredibly strong weapon. Alright, so the HRG Nail Gun. HRG Nail Gun is okay. It's not a weapon I would really go for on SWAT, it's not a weapon I would go for on Survivalist. It's really good on SWAT. On Survivalist, not as much. It's very good at killing trash Zeds, and for SWAT it's good at least dealing with big Zeds, but Survivalist has a lot better options than it for that. And they have some pretty decent options for killing, small stuff. So it's a decent weapon overall, but it's pretty much like the same logic as the Glocks. It does that job quite well, but it's okay. Alright, we've got the HRG, what is this gun? The grenade pistol, it's for Firebug. The Scorcher, that's what it's called. This is the HRG Scorcher, and like I said, Firebug weapons do not work well with Survivalist. I don't really take this weapon, it's not that good with Survivalist. Creating floor fires can be okay at killing trash Zeds, but you can anger big Zeds, and its flare launcher doesn't really do that much damage for them. Fire damage just isn't that great on Survivalist, so sadly this one's going to go into D tier. Even though it is very fun, it's not a very practical weapon to take with them. Alright, now we got the dual buckshots. Dual buckshots aren't that good, actually. Now, dual buckshots are pretty fun, but they're not that great of a weapon. They don't scale very well, they weigh a lot, their upgrades make them weigh more. They don't have a very good spread, they have a good amount of recoil. They're not a very good option for you to take as Survivalist, and one that I'd kind of avoid. I'm also going to put them in the D tier. They're fun, but not that great. Alright, now a single buckshot, though, is actually pretty good early on, because it only costs $5.50, so it does make for a decent weapon for that, although it's also fighting in place for a Desert Eagle, and I would definitely take a Desert Eagle over the buckshot, but it still isn't bad. It's a pretty decent early weapon to take, but not spectacular, so it's going to go somewhere into high C tier. Alright, now I believe this is the HRG Tesla Launcher. Now, Tesla Launcher is a Berserker weapon, so you don't get any increased reload speed no matter what you take with it. It does microwave damage, which is a pretty good damage type, and it can shoot EMP grenades, which are great for supporting the team. That being said, you do have better options, especially at this price point, for EMP, because a little bit more, you can get the arc generator, which is a lot better in my opinion. This is an okay support weapon though, so it's going to go probably towards the bottom of B tier. Pretty decent support weapon. Alright, now the HRZ Vampire. Vampire is a weird weapon, as I've said with Medic. I don't think it's a very good option to take with Survivalist, but it's not a bad option either. It can do pretty high damage. You can heal with it, which is always great. But overall, I feel like it feels kind of weird on Survivalist, so I'm going to put this also in B tier next to the Insurgent, for similar reasoning. Alright, Dragon's Breath is up next. Dragon's Breath is another Firebug weapon or support weapon, and it's good for racking up a lot of assists. It's very good at that. It scales decently well. Fire damage is useful, but it's still not one of the weapons that I really go for with Survivalist. It's decent overall, but I'm also going to put this one probably in C tier. Alright, the Ion Thruster. Ion Thruster has the longest reach out of any of the melee weapons. It does high damage. It has its unique ability. It can do a lot of damage. It's not as good on Survivalist as it is on Berserker, but it's still quite strong. And I'm going to put it right next to the Battle Axe. Pretty good weapon if you want to take it. Alright, the AK. AK is a pretty good tier 3 assault rifle. It does decent damage per shot. It can either be fired in full auto or burst fire. Burst fire has a much higher rate of fire. That's not really necessary with Survivalist, though. This works pretty decent for a trash and medium killing Zed weapon, but I'm not going to be using it for a high damage weapon on Survivalist like I do on Commando. And for that, I'm going to put the AK into B tier. It's an okay option, but an option that I don't usually go for. Alright, Katana. Katana doesn't weigh very much. You can get it early on. Its light attacks are very good at clearing trash, and it can block, which are all pretty good things. It doesn't have the best scaling, and there are better melee options for it, but I'm actually going to rate it higher here than I did on Berserker. I'm going to put Katana in B tier. It's not a bad option early on. Alright, the M14. M14 is a sharpshooter weapon. It is semi-auto. It does pretty decent damage. It has decent scaling. It does have a sight on it. It's only semi-auto, and it's got okay rate of fire. This is a decent weapon overall too, and I'm probably going to put this also into B tier. Mostly I'm going to be using it to kill trash Zeds and medium Zeds, but not really going to be going for big Zeds because you don't get like the rack 'em up skill, so it's not as good there, but it's decent overall. Alright, now this is a single 1911. Single 1911 is okay. It's pretty cheap. It does okay damage, good rate of fire, fast reloads, but nothing really spectacular about it, so it's going to go into C tier. Is this the M39? I think this is the M39 grenade launcher. This is tier 5 demo weapon. It does high damage per second. It does the same damage as the regular grenade launcher per shot. You get 6 of them. You can shoot them out pretty quickly and do quite a bit of damage in a burst. But you can't do that much damage per shot. It's not a very great weapon on Survivalist, but it's okay-ish. It's kind of a fun weapon to meme around with because you can carry more stuff. But even so, it's probably C tier. It's okay, but that's about it. Alright, M4, strong shotgun. Just overall good stats. Scales well. This one's a pretty good weapon overall, and I'm probably going to put this into A tier. Just good option. Alright, how many more weapons we got? Okay, I think we've got about halfway through the list. Alright, up next is the single grenade launcher, and the single grenade launcher is not bad. It has a large explosion radius. You can do quite a bit of damage with it. It's very good at clearing small trash Zeds that group all together, and for that, it does have an okay purpose. I'm going to put this in B tier. It also scales quite well, too, if you want to upgrade it. Alright, Hemoclobber. Hemoclobber is going right up into S tier. Extremely strong. The ability to heal, the ability to block. You get increased movement speed if you're running the melee expert, so all around just an amazing weapon to have. It weighs only 4. It doesn't scale the best with upgrades, but at a weight of 4, it's so easy to fit into so many loadouts, and just such a strong weapon overall. It's just very good. Alright, Microwave Gun. Microwave Gun is not good on Survivalist at all. You don't get any of the bonuses like you do on Firebug, which is which is a continuing theme of this video. Microwave damage is one of the better damages in the game, and being able to knock stuff back with its second ability, which also counts as explosion damage, is alright, but it is not a very good weapon for Survivalist. It also costs quite a bit and weighs a lot. I'm going to put this right next to the flamethrower in terms of usefulness in C tier. Not one of the better ones. Alright, Mine Reconstructor. The ability to heal, put out goo balls, weird weight. This gun's not that great. It's probably one of the weakest weapons of medic weapons, and it's not one that I ever take with Survivalist. That being said, it is still a medic weapon, so it's automatically C tier just because you can heal with it. Alright, Minigun. Minigun's really fun with Survivalist because you can carry the minigun and carry something like dual 500s, and Minigun is extremely good at killing trash Zeds. And the 10 weight does not matter because you can go up to 20 weight, so you have another 10 weight to play with. Gives you way more flexibility, even with just 5 weight and being Survivalist where you have so many options. It's still not a bad weapon. It's extremely fun. I think I'm going to put Minigun for Survivalist probably in A tier. It's a super fun weapon, and I really enjoy it, and you have more flexibility with it. Alright, the Mosin Nagant. The Mosin also counts as a melee weapon, so you can run faster with it while you have it out, which is great. It's a ranged option, and it does a ton of damage per shot. It has a somewhat small magazine size for it. It also has one of the longest reaches out of melee weapons. It's very good. The ability to block, long range, high damage, bonus movement speed. I'm going to put the Mosin for Survivalist also in S tier. Very good. Very good weapon. Alright, the Pulverizer. Pulverizer does a ton of damage with its big hit. You do get increased movement speed and higher damage with it. You can increase the reload speed if you take the reload weapon, and you can also, if you take the reload perk, and you can also increase the explosion radius of it, which is great. I should have mentioned that about the Hemoclobber too. If you have the one that gives you higher explosion radius, this also counts towards the Hemoclobber. But the Pulverizer is a pretty decent weapon overall for them. Being able to block, high damage, at 6 weight, it's not too bad because you do have so much flexibility. So I'm going to put Pulverizer probably into high B tier. It's a pretty good option. I still think I'd rather take the Axe or the Ion. Well, actually I'm going to put Pulverizer into A tier. Very good damage, and works well with your perks. Alright, Railgun. Railgun does a ton of damage, and that's the main thing it does. It does weigh quite a bit, but that doesn't matter as much. It does allow you to go with a lot of different options, and it's one of the best high damage weapons in the game, as well as you can pair it with something like an AA-12 and do very well with it. It does have somewhat of a small ammo pool, and it's a little bit limited overall, but I think I'm going to put Railgun at the top of A tier. Maybe not quite S tier. I could see somebody else putting it into S tier, though. Dual Rhinos. Dual Rhinos are alright. They do have explosion damage on them. They have the shrapnel damage. They do decent damage. They're at an okay weight. They scale reasonably well. Overall, they're just an okay gun, so I'm going to put them somewhere into B tier. Somewhere right there, I guess. Same with the single one. It does work as a better alternative than one of them, because the sidearm, you can carry more stuff with it, so maybe slightly above it. I don't know. Alright, the L85 Bullpup. This weapon is bad. This weapon was bad for Commando, and it's bad for Survivalists. It's actually worse for Survivalists, in my opinion, because you have better tier 2 options. So if you only have enough to buy a tier 2 weapon, like 650, 750 cash or something like that, you can pick better. You can pick a medic SMG, you can pick a Desert Eagle, you could pick the boomstick. You have much better options than this. This is D tier. Maybe not as bad as the Cock and Burn. Well, maybe it's worse than the Cock and Burn because you had to consciously make the decision to buy it. But, yeah, not very good. Alright, Scar. Scar is a pretty good weapon on Commando. On Survivalist, it's just kind of average. An okay rate of fire, an okay damage, low magazine capacity. Honestly, I don't take the Scar that much. It does have an okay weight. So probably at the bottom of B tier. It's an okay weapon, but nothing spectacular for Survivalist. Alright, Seal Squeal. Seal Squeal is one of my favorite weapons. It does a lot of damage. Its explosions are pretty cool. You can use them as mines. It's a pretty good weapon overall. It's just you don't have very many shots with it. You can blow yourself up with it, which isn't that good. And it does weigh quite a bit. So I'm going to put this into probably higher B tier. It's okay. I think it's better on demo, which is kind of ironic because I put it at a lower rank on demo. But I think demo does make much better use of this than Survivalist. That being said, it is still super fun to use. And super strong. The Pump Shotgun. Pump Shotgun's pretty good to start out with. It does high damage. It has a pretty decent spread. I mean, kind of slow rate of fire, which sucks. You're not going to hold on to the Pump Shotgun for any amount of time. But to start out with, it's not bad. So, B tier. Alright, Tommy Gun. Tommy gun is an okay weapon. It's got a huge magazine, it does weigh quite a bit, and it does okay-ish damage with an okay-ish rate of fire. It's mostly just going to be used for trash killing Zeds. That being said, it is pretty good at doing that. But for the weight, not the best option in my opinion. It's going to go into C tier. Alright, nail gun. Now, the nail gun is a cheap option. It's extremely cost effective. It can bounce with its nails, and it scales decently well, too. It's also really your first access to a semi-auto shotgun, and for that it's not bad. I think I'm going to put the nail gun somewhere into B tier, maybe with the other nail gun. We'll put them next to one another. Alright, then we've got, this is the freeze thrower. Freeze thrower is one of Survivalist's unique weapons. You can freeze enemies with it, or you can use its secondary fire to fire out balls of ice that act sort of like a shotgun. It's not bad. It's pretty good, especially on certain classes, like Medic can use it really well, and Survivalist can use it pretty well if you want to be a support class. That being said, it's still not a great weapon. I usually end up running low on ammo with it. It is somewhat expensive, and it scales okay. It actually scales kind of weird, because it scales higher with the frost damage of just spraying it than it does with the actual shotgun ice mode. So overall, an okay weapon. It's going to go into B tier. It's fine. Alright, I'm 45. I'm 45 also is similar to a lot of these assault rifles. It does decent damage. It has a decent magazine. It has decent rate of fire. It's all around a decent weapon, but it's not a weapon that I'm really going to use for anything besides trash killing. That being said, it's pretty decent at trash killing and medium Z killing. So yeah, this one's also just going to go into B tier. It's fine. Bonebreaker is the highest defense weapon in the game. It also has one of the highest bash damages in the game, and it does pretty decent damage overall. You can also block a lot of different types of attack with it. I would honestly just say think of this as a much better version of the Riot Shield and Glock. And for that, I'm probably going to put this thing into A tier. Whoop. Okay, it's going to go into B tier for a second, but probably A tier. If you want to be defensive and you want to tank for your team, it's a pretty good option. All right, the Cryo Bow. Cryo Bow does give you the effect of freezing things. It also counts as a bow, so you can pick up the shots. You can also stab with the spike on it, which is good. It fits into a okay amount of loadouts. I've only, I think, used this once on Survivalist so far, and it was okay, but it's going right next to the crossbow. It's about the same as the crossbow, in my opinion. The crossbow does scale better, though, so maybe below the crossbow. Alright, then we got dual Spitfires. Like I said, Survivalist does not scale well with the firebug weapons. Dual Spitfires are one of the better ones, though, because they don't weigh that much. They scale very well. They do pretty good damage at killing all sorts of trash Zeds and medium Zeds. So dual Spitfires are probably going to go to the higher end of C tier. They are okay, and you can get faster reloads with them, but I wouldn't really recommend going for Spitfires. That being said, if you want to, they're an okay option. Alright, the Hemogoblin. Hemogoblin has the ability to inflict a lot of various status effects on enemies, because it can inflict the poison status, the bleeding status. You can also heal with it, since it's a medic weapon, which is good, and it makes for a pretty decent support weapon. Not a weapon I take very often, but a pretty decent one, so it's also going to go somewhere into B tier. Maybe up there. It's another one of those kind of odd healing weapons that sort of fits okay, but I still believe that there's, a couple better medic options to pick from. Alright, up next is the Fire M16. I don't remember what this one's called, and I don't care to look it up right now. So, we're just going to call it the Fire M16. And like I said, this weapon is not good. You're not going to take this weapon on Survivalist. Yeah, it's pretty good on the Firebug, but when you don't get any sort of bonuses with it, there's no reason to take it. So this one, just like the Scorcher, is going to go into D tier. It's not a weapon you're going to take. Like I said, it's pretty good on Firebug. It's not good on Survivalist, though. Alright, the HZ-12. So the HZ-12 is a perfectly okay gun. It does everything just alright. Decent spread, decent damage, high capacity magazines, kind of a weird firing mode, and it's kind of cheap, so it's gonna go right into B tier with a lot of these weapons. All right, the Vector, or the Chris. The Chris has really high rate of fire. It does okay damage. It's pretty decent at killing trash. It is extremely similar to the Glock in a lot of ways. I would say the Glock is a bit better than it, though, because the damage isn't that great from the Chris per shot. It's probably going towards the bottom of B tier. It's okay, but that's about it. You have better options if you need to clear certain enemies. M16. M16 kind of fits into both categories since it counts as both a demo and a commando weapon. And I think it reloads. I think both reloads are increased with that, but I could be wrong. It might function the same way commando and demo work, where demo reloads the grenade faster, commando reloads the actual gun faster. That being said, it's not a bad option. It's probably one of the best assault rifles, just because it's so. Just because it does allow you to use both of them, and it allows you to have a very flexible loadout. I'm actually going to put the M16 probably at the bottom of A tier. It's not a bad option for Survivalist, and I think it's actually one of the better assault rifles besides maybe the medic assault rifles. Alright, MP5. You have better options for tier 2s. I wouldn't really recommend taking the MP5. That being said, if you want it because it weighs a little amount and deals with trash okay, it's not bad. But not really a weapon I ever really go for, so I'm going to put the MP5 also into D tier here. MP7's pretty good to start out with. You get a good amount of shots with it. It has clean iron sights, does okay damage, kills all sorts of small stuff, and scales okay. Probably C tier. It's just an okay weapon to get early on. Whoops, that's B tier. Going to C tier. P90. P90 is pretty decent as a submachine gun because you have a lot of rounds with it. It's very accurate, and it deals with trash very well. So it's actually probably one of the better submachine guns on Survivalist, because that's mostly what you're going to be taking a submachine gun for. Also, it has low weight. So I'm going to put this higher up into B tier than the other submachine guns. It's pretty good. Alright, the Seeker 6. The Seeker 6 is an interesting weapon. It's a pretty good DPS weapon for demo. You can trigger multiple explosions with it for demo. That being said, on Survivalist, it's not that great. You usually want just higher damaging weapons if you're going to pick a demo weapon, and this isn't one of them, so it's going to go into C tier. Alright, a single Spitfire. Now, single Spitfire falls into both the Gunslinger and the Sharpshooter reloads. So you do get faster reloads with this, regardless of which weapons you want to take, which makes it much more flexible than a single Spitfire or dual Spitfires. Fire is kind of nice. It's good at clearing out small things. It's an okay sidearm, but that's about it. It's an okay sidearm. So it's going to go, I guess, above duals. Duals can go somewhere down here. I don't know where. These aren't in a great order as of right now. They're just kind of roughly where I'd put them. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into putting them all, where I think they should go. Maybe towards, the higher ones like the railgun, and I guess the S tier stuff is about where I'd put it. Alright, we're getting down to the last couple weapons. So up next we have the Centerfire, and Centerfire is really good because it counts as both a gunslinger weapon and a sharpshooter weapon. So it fits into a lot of loadouts. It does very high damage for a tier 2 weapon. It has very long range. It has good sights. It scales extremely well too, and it is an extremely strong option and great for most loadouts. I think I'm going to put the Centerfire actually into S tier. It fills so many roles quite well, and it still leaves you open for a lot of options to take. All right, the Stoner. Stoner is a lot of fun. Pretty big magazine capacity. It does weigh a bit, but that's all right. It is a pretty decent trash killing weapon. It's actually probably one of the better ones, and you do get some options with it. It's in a similar place to Minigun. I think Minigun's a bit more fun though, so I'm going to put Stoner somewhere into B tier for Survivalist. Very fun weapon, but it's going to be used as a similar role to like the P90, the Vector, and other things like that. So it's not amazing, but it is super fun to use. All right, Winchester. Winchester is probably one of the best, well, it is one of the best starting weapons, and it scales very well. It has really high damage at high ranks, and this thing's going easily into A tier. It might even be S tier with the centerfire. I think the centerfire is a little bit better just because of its raw damage. And at 5 weight and 165 damage, if you don't want to upgrade it, that is really, really strong. So, a bit better than the Winchester, at least for Survivalist. But still, Winchester is really good. Maybe I'll put the Winchester here-ish. Alright, now this is a single Winter Bite. Single Winter Bite is about the same as dual Winter Bites for this class. You can get it more early on, so if you wanted, you could buy it, and then maybe something else like a shotgun revolver for the early waves. That way you'd have a support weapon and a damaging weapon. So it's not bad. I would say it's better than a single one, but I'm still going to put it into C tier. It's okay, but you have, once again, better options. That's usually how this goes. Zweihander. Zweihander has really long reach, high damage. It's a pretty good melee weapon overall, and it's probably going to go maybe into low A tier. I think it's a bit better than like the axe, the katana, the eviscerator for Survivalist. Probably not as strong as like some of these other ones for them, but still you can block with it, you do high damage with it, you can attack pretty quick with it. It's overall just a pretty good weapon if you need to take it. Alright, up next is the Killerwatt. The Killerwatt is another unique weapon to Survivalist. So it can shoot 2 modes. It can, in its primary fire, it shoots out electric bolts, which kind of go all over the place, but sometimes count as headshots. And its secondary fire, you charge it up and fire a beam out that counts as microwave damage. The beam can do quite a bit of damage if you're allowed to hold it onto an enemy for long, but I find it kind of clunky. It doesn't always go where I want it to, and the electric shots are okay. They can also apply the EMP effect, which is good. Does cost quite a bit, does weigh quite a bit, but it's an all-around pretty decent weapon. I'm going to put it probably in the middle of B tier. Helios Rifle. Helios Rifle, once again, is not a good weapon to take with Survivalist, like all the other Firebug weapons. And it's going to cost you a lot. It does do decent damage, though, but it's still pretty much never going to be worth it for you to take. So, sadly, the Helios Rifle is probably going to go into D tier, because I've rarely taken this and always been disappointed with it with Survivalist. Microwave damage sounds cool. It sounds similar to like the microwave gun, but the microwave gun has a little bit more utility, being able to knock stuff back, whereas this you're just dealing damage, and you have better damage dealing weapons. Alright, RPG. RPG is going to go right into S tier for Survivalist. Yeah, it does really high damage. It has a high weight, but that doesn't matter as much. You can pair it with something like the AA-12, the Hemoclobber. You have a lot of options. The Kaboom Stick and the Hemoclobber with the RPG. It's just very, very strong and a very good weapon. So, yep, somewhere into S tier. Let's put it there, I guess. All right, now I believe this is the 2011. 2011, I pretty much never take with Survivalist. It's not as good on them as it is with Gunslinger. It still does decent damage and pretty decent damage per second, but that's about it. You don't get the rack 'em up ability, so you're not doing tons of crazy amounts of damage. So yeah, you're going right into B tier with a lot of the other weapons that are just okay, and same with dual ones. All right, FAL. FAL's got pretty good damage. It's got a pretty good rate of fire. It's pretty decent overall. It has an okay weight. It counts as both a sharpshooter and a commando weapon, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. This, like I said with Survivalist, I believe this is just an upgrade from the M14, and it's definitely going to go into A tier because of its flexibility and its just general overall decent damage-ness, I guess. Alright, Husk Cannon. Once again, you're not going to take Husk Cannon with a Survivalist, or at least you shouldn't, because you have better options of this. Now, this does count as a demo weapon, so you do get a faster reload with it, but it's at the same price point as an RPG, and I never take a Husk Cannon over an RPG with Survivalist. So, I mean, it's still decent damage, but probably B tier, because I only ever use it to use the charge-up attack with it. I don't spam fire it, even though spam fire is decent for clearing stuff. Once again, you have pretty decent options for clearing things, but it does sit in kind of a weird middle spot where if you were just using the charge damage, I could see it going up to A tier. If you're just using the spam damage, though, you have much better options. All right, now we've got the 50 caliber, the AMR. I can't remember what it's called. I think M99. Big gun. This thing weighs 12, which makes it extremely unwieldy for sharpshooter. But for survivalist, it's quite good because you still have 8 more weight that you can carry, and for that, it's actually really powerful. I don't know if I'd put it into S tier, but I am going to put it at the high end of A tier. It's a far better option with survivalist than it is with sharpshooter or with any other class. I mean, you can kind of run it with support, but that's a bit weird. I mean, at 12, it does somewhat actually limit what you can carry, but it still does remarkably high damage, and it's really, really good on survivalist. So Mac 10. Mac 10 is pretty decent overall. Low weight, decent damage. Fire damage is kind of a nice add-on. It's an okay weapon. It's also going to go right into B tier with a lot of the submachine guns. All right, this is the 501 medic rifle. So the one that shoots out medic grenades, and medic weapons are pretty good. It does okay damage. The medic grenades are amazing. So it's probably going to also go into S tier. It's just a very good weapon overall. You can heal with it so easily. It weighing 8 isn't a big deal because you could actually take you could take this medic rifle, the medic pistol, and the medic SMG or the hemoclopper. You could take all of those and use all of them, so you'd have a full 4-weapon healing ability as well as the ability to block. Very strong overall and just very good for support. And very good for supporting the team. All right, the MKB. MKB is average. It does decent damage. It shoots okay. It's very average. It's gonna go right into B tier because it's an okay option, but not a fantastic one or anything. I never take it with survivalist, but it's okay. All right, Doomstick. Doomstick is similar to the AA-12, and I'm going to put it right next to the AA-12 in S tier because Doomstick does a ton of damage. Its weight isn't that bad on survivalist. It doesn't have as good a spread as it does with support, but still overwhelming damage, really high stumble ability. Just a very strong weapon overall, and survivalists can make pretty good use of it. All right, Road Redeemer. This is going right where the katana is, wherever that is. I think it's in B tier, actually. Yeah, high B tier. Way to go, katana. Road Redeemer is going right there because it has the exact same stats, exact same everything as katana, except for it has a different move pool. So, yep, going right there. All right, and then the Strikers. The Strikers aren't that great. I've said that before. They have weird hitboxes. The EMP effect is kind of nice, but you have more options for EMP effect, and you have to get up close to hit things. It's not your best melee weapon. It's probably one of the weakest melee weapons, but it's still a melee weapon, so you can still block with it. You can still do stuff with it, but yeah, low end of B tier. Not a huge fan of these. All right, now we're getting to actually some of the starting equipment. So depending on which perks you take, If you are below level 15, then you will only use the Commando's grenade, which is the high explosive grenade. These grenades are decent. They do good explosive damage. They can kill enemies pretty easily. You can chain them together to blow up flesh pounds without too much issue. They're not a bad grenade overall, so I'm going to put them somewhere into B tier. Pretty decent. Now the meta grenades are going to go into S tier, just like they always do, because the ability to heal your allies is just one of the best things in the game. You can use them to leak through doors to kill enemies on the other side. You can use them to heal yourself and stay alive. They are just very, very good. And then we got Molotovs. Molotovs I think I'm also going to put into B tier. They are better on Firebug. I said they were A tier on Firebug, and I think that's true on Firebug because Firebug takes reduced damage from fire and can be fire immune. So not a big deal if you're lighting yourself on fire then. But Survivalist never has that effect. Yeah, if you light yourself on fire, you're going to be on fire. It doesn't matter what level you are. So that can hurt you, but they are still very good at killing trash. One of the best grenades for that. And then finally we have the Gore Shiv. The Gore Shiv is decent. You are one of the better classes at using knives because you do get the melee expert. That being said, you're never going to use your knife if you have a melee weapon. Now, that being said, you're not like Berserker where you're guaranteed to start out with a melee weapon and are going to build into melee weapons. So I'm going to put the Gore Shiv also into C tier. It's not bad early on. You can kill early waves with it without using up whatever your primary weapon you were given is. Save a little bit of ammo if you're trying to skip to a tier 3 weapon or something. But yeah, it's an okay weapon. Alright, so this was a giant list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This is a lot of things. I'm sure I would kind of move these around on maybe a different day. Maybe I'd move the medic shotgun or the double barrel up to S tier or the 50 cal up to S tier. Maybe I'd move some of the melee weapons like the pulverizer down. Maybe I'd move some of these weapons up or down. It kind of depends. Survivalist is incredibly flexible, and that's usually that is one of their strongest assets. I believe that these weapons are always going to be strong on Survivalist, though, for the reasons that I've mentioned. They just go very well with them. Yeah, this is the Survivalist list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. That was a very long video. Tell me what you guys thought about it in the comments down below. I will link this document down below too, so if you guys want to go off and build your own version of the Survivalist list, feel free to do so. And thank you guys so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to all of you guys next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye.